I started like my birth work journey when I was 10, that my mom had early labor at home, and I was
Oh,
my baby
wow.
brother was my baby brother was crowning, and we lived in Brooklyn, second floor. Paramedics were taking a long time. I say this story because I remember it literally like it was
Wow.
yesterday.
I
And I
just got
remember my
chills. Welcome to Mindset Mastery with Julissa Edwards, the podcast dedicated to helping high performers unlock their true potential and cultivate a powerful mindset for success. I'm your host, Julissa Edwards, a mindset coach and advocate for healthy high performance. Join me on this transformative journey as we delve into strategies, insights, and inspiring conversations with experts and thriving high performers. Get ready to master your mindset, elevate your performance, and create a life of purpose and fulfillment. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another interview styled episode. Today we have our beautiful guest, Yamel Belen. She is a pediatric-specialized RN, doula, and board certified lactation counselor. She traces her journey in birth work to supporting her mother at an almost home birth when she was 10 years old, which we do dive deeper into that in today's episode. She is certified as a doula in 2013. She swiftly transitioned from a solo practice to leading a collaborative effort with a team of birth and postpartum professionals at her company now named One Love Doula Services. Yamel expanded her reach within the 2024 launch of One Love Nanny Services, a sister company to One Love Doula Services, in an effort to hold hands for a bit more time with the families she and her team serve. Besides client support, she also showcases leadership in the Tampa Bay Birth Network and advisory board member of Parents Magazine. She is also well known for her podcast named the Motherhood Kit Podcast, launched in March 2023. So, if that isn't enough of a beautiful resume, Yamel is also a beautiful mama to 5 children. So, in this episode, we dive into so much depth of conversation surrounding entrepreneurship, motherhood, how to balance both, and what our journeys have been in the continuous evolvement as us as human beings, as women, as business owners, and as mothers, and how it all relates and plays a vital role in our purpose, our happiness, and the importance of reassessing from time to time again. So it's a jam-packed episode. If you are a mama, you most definitely want to chime in. If you're someone who has been wanting to build a business and has children or wants or knows that they want to be a mama in the future. And also just a really good episode for those that maybe are not mamas and want to learn what it's like to develop a business that really comes from your passions and how to have success within those areas. So take a listen. I hope you enjoy. Okay, I am super excited for today's conversation. Yamel, thank you so much for being on the show with us here today. You are such an inspirational woman. You are a woman of many crafts, many skills. And on top of that, you have such grand impact in the work that you're doing and in your household. You are a mama of 5. That is alone an applause right there. That's a lot of little ones, and now they're a little older. They're older too, but that's a lot of people to manage. What's your secret? How do you balance it all?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Gillis. I really appreciate such a great sort of intro. Well, I want to preface with saying this wasn't necessarily a master plan, being a mom of 5 or doing all the projects that I've been able to be involved in. And I say that in a positive way because I think a lot of times those of us that are like high functioning women, it's almost like people look at us sort of like, oh, bless your heart kind of thing. And I don't
Hmm.
entertain that, or nor do I want that. I want fellow women to feel inspired. First of all, you don't have to do all the things. You don't have to be involved in loads of things, nor do you have to be a mom of five. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's equally as challenging to be a mom of one. Mothering alone is challenging.
Yes.
But to answer your question regarding how do I do it all, I have to say that I do have a very supportive partner, and we've always been sort of like a powerhouse together, even when we were learning and growing our relationship. That's one thing that was always very much at the forefront of how he is as a partner. He's very supportive of my dreams and my wishes and my personal goals, and the same with me. So I would say that's the primary thing that keeps things moving forward, because I don't think
Mm,
I would have been able to check these boxes and do these things without his support and sort of being my personal cheerleader.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, we say it all the time, right? That we're not meant to do this alone.
Mhm.
Mothering, I'll say parenting in general, but I really view mamas as this is we're the matriarch. We kind of set the
Right.
tone. We our babies, they absorb everything from us on a physical, spiritual, and mental level, right? The fathers play a huge role in this as well. But I will say with mamas, it's just a little bit different, right? And so for us to have support and whatever that looks like, beautiful that you have support from your partner and your husband that was able to kind of, it sounds like, hold you through all your, I'm going to get into more deeper questions but all through your evolvements, right? Because as a worker and entrepreneur, we tend to grow and shift with our practices and our businesses as we change as humans and for us as women. So, can you take us through your trajectory of where you began your line of work and how it led you to where you are today?
So from when I was a little girl, I always knew that I was going to be in healthcare in some way. I was the one that my aunt would bring home like old, this, I'm aging myself, but so we lived in Brooklyn. My aunt worked in a doctor's office, and she was a nurse. She is a nurse herself, and she would bring like old charts that, without the patient's name and stuff like charts that they were getting rid of. That's what I used to play with. Like I used to play office, and I was like the one checking you in with my cousins. And it was just, I knew that I was going to be in caregiving in some way.
Mm,
I started being a mom very early on, and I got married very young. So I kind of put my dream of the healthcare field to the side. I didn't think that I can go to college or put myself through such a strenuous program while being a mom.
mm,
I met this gal at church, this lady who just spoke life into me one day, and I had three kids at that point, and I used to work in the banking field and was very successful there too.
oh,
And she
okay.
said, I looked at her and I'm like, I would love to volunteer at the health booth one day at church, but I'm not a healthcare worker. And she was like, why? So you
Mm,
want to be a healthcare worker? So why aren't you? And I said, well, I have three kids. And this is why I hype up motherhood so much, and us still staying true to ourselves and what we want, because I was limiting myself because I was a mom. And I understand we put our kids first, they're our everything, but I didn't really have to. I still could be a great mom. And it's such a beautiful thing for our kids to witness us accomplishing things. That also tells them that they have the right to do the same. So
absolutely.
she, long story short, she was just like, why can't you go to nursing school? Like, what? Like, of course you can. I was
Mm,
enrolled in nursing school by the next business day. And I completed two programs while still being a mom. And what I realized during those programs, and while I was doing, in nursing school, you have to practice a lot, and you go to different settings, hospital settings, birthing settings, all sorts of settings.
mhm.
And when I was doing the maternity section and engaging with pregnant people, I knew that this is where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the motherhood space in some way. But as a nurse, you're really not able to build those relationships. And although I have
Mm.
worked labor and delivery as a nurse, um, the word, the career doula just fell into my lap. And I realized that I was already a doula. I was already, the person in my circle that would educate you on your birthing options, or the person in my circle that people would call about different bottles and, how do I breastfeed and how do I
Mm.
latch. So I was already being a doula. I just needed to get some more education. I think I'm a lifelong learner. And I launched my doula practice more than 10 years ago. And ever since then, everything that I do is in the motherhood, prenatal, pregnancy, labor, postpartum space.
Beautiful. And is that the part of your business that also serves as the nanny portion too?
So the nanny business is something that is coming to life, or came to life sometime last year, but officially launching now, 2024. And that's because a
Congratulations.
lot of people just did not want to leave One Love Doula Services. They would stay with us for postpartum care, and they're just like, Emma, I just feel so nurtured by you all. We have a team now. It's not just me.
Mm.
And they sort of don't want to leave. And our sort of little tagline is that we're holding hands with you through this journey. So I figure, you know what? Why not? Let's continue to hold hands with people, even out of the critical postpartum space into early parenting. And our sister company, One Love Nanny, officially launched this year.
Oh my God, so exciting. So that's beautiful. So
Mhm.
I'm going to go back a little bit in what you said earlier. So you began as a clinical nurse, and your road to get there was your aha moment of, I can be a mama already to three children and do this, right? I don't have to choose one or the other, which is so profound. And when you meet people like that on your journey of life, in this case, in our motherhood journey, that woman that you said you met her at church.
Yeah, I met her at
Yeah.
church. Hmm.
Yeah. She was supposed to like speak into you at that time. That's how it feels, right? It just became this huge transformative moment of like, wait a second, I can do that. So much so that that same night you went ahead and applied,
Yeah,
which is
I
which
did.
is amazing, and it changed your life. And I think it's beautiful because you began of doing this clinical work as a nurse, and I'm sure you were an amazing nurse, and then you wanted more connection, more soulful connection, it sounds like. And so doula came about, and you went into that path. And what I think is very powerful about what you do, doulas are amazing. We've shared that conversation on your podcast. By the way, she does that too. You also have a podcast, right? And yeah, we shared our love about how important doulas are for the mama, for the dad too. Just for me, it's like a supportive emotional coach who also has all this insight on what to do, how to help me out in this very vulnerable time that a mother goes through. It doesn't matter if it's the first pregnancy or the fifth, And so, what I like about you specifically in this line of work of being a doula and now having your own company is that you get the best of both worlds because not only do you have, you have the clinical insight being a nurse first
Yeah.
while also
Yeah.
being a doula for the emotional and spiritual component of it. So, can you tell us a little bit about how that has really? I mean, I'm sure it's helped your business grow even that much further because you began as a nurse.
Yeah, and I just stepped away from I will always be a nurse. I will never let my license lapse because I still use that in some capacity with consulting and dealing with different community partners here in Tampa Bay. But I was director of nursing for
Wow.
um, pediatric organization for medical foster care for many years, and before that,
Wow.
I was a case coordinator. So my world was also pediatric. So I
Mm.
I think that I want people to understand though that they don't have to be a nurse to become a doula. It did help me and I
Right.
don't regret that at all. And I love that for my team because not only are they professional doulas that want to join One Love because they believe in what I have, birthed, because I feel like all of these projects have been extra babies, but
Yeah.
they also get that support that not only am I a doula, but like you said, I have clinical background. So
Hmm.
I think that has been a plus, and I love that so much for my team that they get that added support where if they want to talk about a special diagnosis that they've never heard before, or they want to talk about a study that they read, they don't have that clinical background. They don't have all the years of education that I've been through. So I've been able
Yep.
to utilize my strengths to
Yep.
be a better leader for
Yes.
the people that choose to come on board with me, because I am extremely appreciative of my team. And I know that the One Love brand, it's bigger than me. And it's grown because
Mm.
of the dynamic people that have said yes to this mission.
Hmm. I'm even like, we've spoken before, but now I'm even understanding your One Love brand that much clearer because of all these pieces that have gone into it, which is really your story. And that's what entrepreneurship is, right? I believe that entrepreneurship is it's such a soulful piece of work that is attached to the human being that is running it. But at the same time,
Yes.
with a lot of, it's a good word, humbleness and non-attachment of like, this is my work and I did pour all my, blood, sweat and tears into this, but it's also so much bigger than me. And like this plan
Yeah.
was already destined to be something great, and I'm just almost like saying yes to the calling and just following through this evolution. It gets to
Yeah.
kind of ride along with me,
Almost like a
right?
guiding light, I think. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're definitely a guiding light. We have some sort of just creativity and super duper big dreamers, right? Like I always
Mm,
tell people that have consulted with me privately when they're like, I really want to, start this business, but I just don't know if I should. And I ask them, well, can you stop thinking about it? Like, can you stop
yeah.
thinking about this at any given moment? They're like, no. I'm like, then you should. Like, if it keeps you up at night with all these
Hmm.
thoughts and dreams and hopes, then this is the right thing for you, because entrepreneurship, I will say, is not as glamorous as TikTok wants us to think it
Let's
is.
talk about it. Yeah. Yeah.
There are a lot of lonely moments. There are a lot of self-doubt moments. There's a
Yeah.
lot of imposter syndrome that happens. But
Yes.
you have to have that really strong mindset to be able to almost hype yourself up. You have to be able to be an individual and guide your own way, because you're going to have people that doubt you. You're going to have moments where someone wants you to change your brand or to change
Yeah.
something about your mission. And you have to
Hmm.
be mentally strong enough to be able to argue those moments, um, and continue with the mission, even when uh, the dry moments in business or the changes like the COVID. We had to make major changes
I
during the
bet.
time of the pandemic, right? And
Mhm,
that did
mhm.
not discourage me for our future, and I'm thankful that it didn't. Um, so yeah, I would say with leadership, it's very much being a guiding light. And one thing that a nurse told me one day that I used to work with, she wanted me to be a charge nurse so bad. And I
What's
used to
that?
fight her on it. A charge nurse. So that's like the
Yeah.
nurse that's in charge of over the
Oh,
shift.
okay.
And
That makes sense.
I used to fight her on it because I'm like, I don't want that. That's like extra drama. People are just all they're gonna be is upset with me, right? Because I have to correct them the entire shift. And she looked at me and said, Yamel, leadership, you don't choose leadership. Leadership chooses you. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm listening. And that
Yeah.
sort of has set the tone for a lot of things that I have done in my life. I realized, and I loved speaking to you about things like this because
Mm.
I think that you offer more insight than my words can. But I realized along when I think about my life, I made a lot of people uncomfortable. And whoever's listening to me is going to be like, yep, Yamel. People that know me personally, they're going to be like, yep. I remember like people would tell me things like, you're stuck up, or you just carry yourself like you, for lack of better words, like your shit don't stink or whatever. And I realize now that it
Mm.
was just my light maybe was making them uncomfortable because they have not found theirs.
Mm. I think as leaders and kind of, I like what you said. It's not really self-appointed. I mean, everybody's journey is different, and I feel that whoever's listening to this podcast episode is probably going to relate to what you're saying, what I'm saying greatly, because that's just the way that it works. But there are some of us that are. We're not self-selected, it's like appointed leaders, right? And I
Yeah.
share that in your story as well. I was so shy growing up. I was very, very
Same.
reserved. I didn't want to be seen. Those parts of me still show up sometimes, even in my entrepreneurship and just my life in general. But I was very much, for me, I was very much like, no, like if somebody else can do it, they can, but that was my feeling, mindset, and somebody in the crowd who was in a position of leadership always said, no, you, Julissa, like, I want you to come. I think you
Yeah.
should come lead this group. I think you, and I'm like, really? Me right now? Like when I was younger, I would doubt it. And my entrepreneurship has honestly continued to be a reflection of that. I too came from the clinical world before I went into coaching and what I do now. And I agree with you. You do not need that clinical background to do what we do today. In fact, meeting other entrepreneurs in the line of work that I do now that don't have a clinical background honestly humbled me greatly. And I saw all the great work that they were doing without having to do the traditional route of schooling in that fashion to do what they do now.
Yeah.
Um, and in my growth of entrepreneurship, it also showed me to also utilize that as an asset the same way that you have. It's like, yeah, you don't have to do the clinical work prior to, but because I do have all that prior experience, I can most definitely bring those insights into my line of work, and it does make me different. It does make my
Yeah.
business different.
Yeah. And it's you're able to support other people. So I think my journey has been exactly what it needed to be.
Correct.
Because it's not only about learning how to take care of patients when you're in nursing school and excelling in that and adding to that. It's learning how to be a leader and learning how to do research and learning how to put together educational seminars and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, um, I don't regret any part of my journey. Of course, sometimes I'm like, I wish I would have finished college when I was younger, and
Hmm.
that's something that my husband and I try to push our kids to do. And I know that that's a hot topic, like college is not for everyone and all of
Yeah.
that. But one thing that we always say, um, when we're talking to our kids is that it has made certain things easier. If
Yeah.
tomorrow, for whatever reason, I get tired of managing a business or I just don't want to do it anymore, right? It's not bringing me joy. I
Yeah.
will always have my nursing degree to fall back on because I will always
Right.
continue to practice that.
That's very true.
Versus, yeah, if I hadn't done that, it makes things a little bit more complex. And who doesn't like, we're lying to ourselves if we are not honest by saying that we want our kids' journey to be a little bit easier than ours.
Easier.
Yeah.
It's so funny as you're saying that because I have two little ones, right? So as you're saying
Yeah.
that, I constantly go back and forth, even when it comes to like schooling our children. Like I
Yeah.
think that everyone's life is perfectly curated for them. But we'd be lying if the human, the egoic tendencies and wants, we desire to cultivate a life for our little ones that is, like you said, better than ours, less stressful, less, whatever we've learned from our lives, we want to share with our children so that they have a better chance at doing whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And as I'm saying that out loud, that's the very human egoic portion of me saying those things, and that's valid. And then I also have the insight that whatever their life is meant to be is what it's meant to be. And we can most definitely hold space and curate that soil for them, but they eventually
Mhm.
have to kind of choose their own thing. So it is a tricky battle with parenting of like, how much do I trust that like everything is working out as it should, because it always is, right?
Yeah.
Versus like, but how can I also put forth my life experiences into my child's so that they may prosper and bloom in an even, even as I'm saying this, like an even better fashion. But as I'm saying it out loud, it's like, what's really better? Right? Because we've experienced, let's say, the job thing of clinical world into entrepreneurship and how that really helped us out. And also seeing other entrepreneurs that went a completely different route and they're doing great.
Right.
And so like, is there one route to life? Of course not.
No. No, not at all. I just feel that I would say to that, we're definitely, a big portion of parenting is us guiding them and providing feedback. And yes, you could go through parenting and be very hands off and just like, okay, do whatever you want, you know? But
Mm-hmm.
they haven't lived life yet. They haven't
Mm-hmm.
experienced much yet. So
Mm-hmm.
a huge portion of our parenting is going to be via lessons or leading by example. They're watching
Yeah.
everything. That's why I say I love that they got to witness me going through the notions of college. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't even know, I didn't even understand FAFSA when I first started my nursing journey, which I always say, like, going to nursing school is literally like the military. Like, they own me. I didn't have a life
I have a
through
lot of
nursing
nursing
school.
friends, and so I'm laughing because they share similar sentiments. Yes.
Oh, yes. That's why we have to kind of like teachers, nurses, we have to give them props all the time because literally their journey has been selfless, is
Yeah.
selfless. But with the kids, I think that parenting, yes, you're right. They do have to make their own way. And I think
Yeah.
there's a space for that at a certain point. Like my oldest is 25. I
Yeah.
cannot expect to dictate every choice that she makes anymore,
Mhm.
such as my 9-year old, right? I can kind of dictate
Mhm.
a little bit more with my 9-year old. But if you plant, I feel like you plant the right seed, you will feel at peace with whatever choice they make
Yeah.
because you did your part, and now it is their time to live their life, just like we have the autonomy to do our life and we've made our choices and we've left our parents' house and we've married who we wanted to marry or partnered with who we wanted to partner. We have to
Yeah.
give that to them, and I will say that is one of the, probably the hardest part of my mothering journey is letting go.
Yeah, I can't yeah, I can't even imagine. And I just want to say that yeah, I mean, I think I honor all parts of it. And I think it's a beautiful, fluid experience where there are multiple moments where you're in it and you're heavily guided because that's our job, right?
Yeah.
And on a soulful experience too, I always teach my mamas that, our children chose us for a very specific purpose as we chose our parents, so
Mhm.
there isn't no reason there that alone, there is grand reasoning why we should shed our light and experiences onto our children. It's this beautiful mix of the human experience and our spiritual expansive experience of they were here to be our children for a very destined reason. And we're not supposed to know all the pieces. So all that we can do is show up in faith that we're doing this the right way and we're doing the best that we can. And also our human egoic tendencies of like, yeah, being a little bit more in there in times of their lives where we feel that that is fitting for them.
Mhm.
And like you said earlier, like you're in a beautiful part now where you have your 9-year old who's obviously younger and your 25-year-old who's an adult, and experiencing, I bet even the 25 and 9-year old, it's different because they're in two different stages of their life, but you're still the mother who's weaving in and out in times where you're putting more of a precedence in your leadership with them, guidance for them, and when you're also stepping back at both stages. Would you agree to that?
Oh yeah, for sure. You're always going to be a mom. I think that's the beauty of our role in their lives, that there isn't a point where you say, okay, you're 18, see ya, you know, like I'll call you, don't call me. That does not exist, especially when you're
Right.
mothering. I feel I am very in tune with my children. That's been very intentional. I feel that we will always be connected, and I want that connection to, I want them to feel it too. I want them to
Mhm.
feel my love. I want them to feel my support. I don't want them to ever guess, like, do my parents love me? Do you know, are they proud of me? I don't want them to have those guesses that I've seen many of us have while we're
Yeah.
breaking down our generational traumas, right? Um, so I've always been intentional about our connection, our individual connection. But yeah, there's a phrase that is like, small kids, small problems, bigger kids, big problems. Your I wouldn't call them problems, but your challenges as a
Yeah.
mom, as
Adversities.
they grow, they just change and they become different, sometimes
Yeah.
bigger,
Yeah.
but they're
And
always
I think,
there. You're always a mom.
yeah, like when you said in the beginning of this episode, how whether you're a mom of one or a mom of five, it comes with its own set
Yeah.
of challenges. And
Yes.
I think that like the intensity of it's different parts of parenting and mothering, it feels so intense sometimes, right? And like for me, going, having my firstborn son and just going through all like first time mom jitters and experiences, and that's where your businesses come to be a great support and alleviation, which is phenomenal. To then me doing this a second time around back to back, where I felt very confident with my second child of like, I just did this, so if she's crying, like I had no worries really for those kind of things. Whereas with Marcus, I was calling the hospital line like every day of like, is this normal? Is this okay? Like, um, and it wasn't that Maya as a baby wasn't any less challenging. In fact, I think she was more challenging. She had colic, like she was crying all the time. But because I had just done it, I felt a sense of alleviation of like, I know she's okay.
Yeah.
And I have more confidence in me that I know what I'm doing. So I bring that example up because you're right. It doesn't matter that now I have two and now it's easier. I'm just walking into a new set of challenges with two, but it doesn't take away the challenges that a mother of one will go through in her experience as a mother of one.
Yep. Yep. You don't know her journey or, her intimacies. So I kind of try to remind people of that when they see me and they're like, "Oh, wow, you're doing so good. I wish I was had my stuff together with one." Well, maybe your
Yeah.
one just needs more of you than my five, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that all of us share similarities in our journey, especially when we're mothering so hard, like with our full heart. I think it's heavy.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that too because you know, how do we do it? How do we balance it? How do we balance motherhood and multiple businesses, right? On your end, I will say it's not even that it's multiple businesses; it's multiple passions.
Yeah.
And I wholeheartedly agree with you that that is, I feel, what makes me healthier, more grounded, because I'm still fueling the other parts of me outside of motherhood.
Yeah.
But my question to you is, I know in my experience, I have different phases. I have
Hmm.
phases in my life where I'm so enriched and passionate about what I'm doing in my line of work. And sometimes it happens where because I'm so fulfilled in my line of work, I'm even a better mom to my children. And then, frankly speaking, there are other times where my work feels like it's not swallowing me, but it's like, wow, I have so much to do and it feels a little overwhelming, that then I feel, it's that thought of like, would it be easier to just work a 9 to 5? Like,
Right.
could I do something? You doubt it. It's a part of the entrepreneurship experience. So How has that shown up for you in the different stages of your life as a mother and as a business owner?
I think that either side has its challenges, right? Like when I was working a traditional 9 to 5, the challenges there is that even though I did have a flexible role with a flexible leader myself who is was my incredible mentor, and I still am friends with her. It was great. I didn't leave that role because it wasn't, but even that role had its challenges where maybe I can't take off today because I have a very, tight, meeting day, or a direct report is out, so I'm covering. So there's challenges there, right? Having a 9 to 5, even though you
Mhm.
don't have the challenge of worrying where the money's coming from, there's
Yeah.
that challenge. And then with the entrepreneurship, what was happening to me early on was the challenge of not being able to disconnect because, of course, this is my baby. So I'm every day frustrated. Like, I need to respond to this client as soon as possible because I'm going to lose that
Yeah.
client or what. And so you develop just like motherhood, right? As you evolve as a mom, you are
Hmm.
developing and building on your coping mechanisms and your techniques and your tricks and your tools. That's why we called it the Motherhood Kit, right? Because I'm building
Yeah.
on
I
those
love that.
tools. So that's what has been very vital to the success of my passion. I love that you said passion, the success of my passion, but staying true to myself in my wish to still be a present mom, because
Yeah.
there is no success. Somebody asked me the other day in a I think it was a podcast interview, where they're like, what does success look like to you? And I replied, my kids being happy. That had
Hmm.
nothing to do with my business. You would think that success to me would be like, well, I have a storefront and I have clients all over the world and we're the best doula service, in the world. That would be success. No, looking around and seeing them happy, healthy, and thriving as individuals to
Thriving.
me
That's what I
is
thought of. Yeah.
success, is
Hmm.
success to
Hmm.
me. So I can do all these things with this business, and if they are not happy, that's not going to be success to me. So
Right.
I think what has stayed on, like, at the top of my non-negotiable when building my passions has been um constantly connecting with my partner. I didn't like I That's a non-negotiable to me. I want that connection. I
Hmm.
want us to go
Hmm.
on dates. I want us to hug. I want us all of that. And my, connection, mothering with my children, my time with them. Those are non-negotiables. And if my passion kind of hinders that or messes with that, then I have to reassess.
Yeah. I love that. I think I agree and echo your thoughts on both. Either or could be challenging, right? The entrepreneurship route or the 9 to 5 route for different
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
And for me personally, my entrepreneurship has been, it's like a car that gets to drive me to my happiness, which is my version of
Mm,
success,
I love
right?
that.
So it's like, okay, it's gonna, I'm still like, I'm a new mom. My kiddos are 2 and 1. Like, and all I know thus far has been entrepreneurship with my children because it was birthed right before my son was birthed. And so there's been a lot of doubts for me of like, is this, I always tend to choose myself. And back to the car analogy, it's like, okay, in this chapter of my life, my little ones need a lot from me. Rightfully so. They're
Yeah.
babies, right?
Yeah.
And so, my life was like, could I be an entrepreneur where I really only work 15 to 20 hours a week and that be enough to cover the bills and more? Right? It was this thought process of like, that wouldn't be feasible for me at a 9 to 5 right now. So can I curate a life where that exists? And it supports me in my motherhood journey. And my road in entrepreneurship has been successful in the ways that like spirit keeps showing me like whatever you desire we can give you and you are deserving of it, and if I'm deserving, so is everybody else. It's that belief system of, do I actually believe this can actually happen? In the beginning of my business, I was actually at a point where I don't do this anymore, but I want to go back to it, where I would work for 3 months and take 1 month off, work for 3 months, take 30 days off, and still pay all my
Wow,
bills.
that's beautiful. Yeah.
And it was great because I was a first time mom, and that felt really supportive for me. And also the hard parts of that has also been that my children are little and they do need a lot of my attention. And so while right now I've kept my work week to 20 hours a week, there's a part of me that sometimes wishes like some weeks could be 30 because I love my business so much. And I
Yeah.
also want to devote more time and get things organized and all of that. And sometimes think of like, okay, is this not the right time? It's a convo with God and source that I have to have often of like, where am I supposed to be at this time? I know there's a world where I can do both. Like, show me the percentages, right? Like, how can I be a devoted mother at this time and also still fuel this that is making me happy, is helping us have a more comfortable lifestyle, and is also teaching my children plenty of things the same way that your children saw you in school. And I literally, this past weekend, I just came back from a motherhood retreat that I hosted, and it was beautiful. And I've had visions of my children leading those retreats with me as children. So
Mm.
as much as I, go back and forth of like, should I just be with the kids? Like they need more of me and all of that. And then also it's like, but I'm also fueling this, or I'm saying yes to this bigger vision that includes them and my husband in there. So this other baby of mine, of course, it doesn't take precedent over my children, but it's very important. And so I'll say that it's a beautiful journey, but it's a constant self-assessment of like, is this the right thing? Am I putting my energy
Exactly.
where it needs to be?
Yeah. And I mean, let's be honest, huge corporations that have extreme success, that is what they do, quarterly, sometimes even monthly. They reassess, they look at what is
Mm,
doing great, what is not doing great. Do we need to do layoffs? Do we not? And I think that we can do that on a smaller scale, and we should be doing that. What is working? What is not working? What is bringing me joy? And what
yeah,
is not bringing me joy. I had a business mentor one time that when we would sit down and go over things, that is one thing that she used to ask me about every task on my to-do list. She would say, Yamel, I need you to separate the ones that are not bringing you joy. We need to delegate those to someone else.
I
That
love
has
that.
done wonders for me and my business because guess what? I don't like doing the behind the scenes of the website. So I needed to
Yeah,
find a way, right? I
yeah,
don't like
yeah,
doing that. That would bring me anxiety and just I
yeah.
would be grumpy with my kids because I have to change something on the website. So I
Yes.
was like, okay, I need to change this. And
Mm,
I think that's something that as entrepreneurs that I would love to just give a
mm,
little bit of tidbit. I see
mhm.
growing entrepreneurs treating their business just solely like a little hobby and like a little fun thing. And it's like, no, whether you are making, I don't know, Christmas what is it called? Like Christmas decals, something small, or you
Mhm.
have a huge company, you should be treating it the same. It's still big,
Yeah.
right? You're still investing your time, your energy, all of that into it. I find a lot of times we don't put that seriousness into it and that, like, assessing what is going right, what is not going right. And we just are like
Mhm.
just doing the thing. And then they wonder why it
Mm.
doesn't, like, is not
See,
successful.
yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say, the intention behind what you're doing, and I'm as you're talking, I'm making so many connections of like how motherhood really is a reflection of the way that you run your business. So
Oof.
first thing I'll say is via support, right? Like me too. I am so not tech savvy. And so I have my creative director. She handles all that for me. I love her so much because it's not my area of expertise. And you're right. In the beginning of my business, when I was trying to figure it out all by myself, I was grumpy. I was not myself. And I wasn't a mother at that time.
Yeah.
Lorena has been with me for a long time, but I'm sure it would have bled into my motherhood experience. And there's other things in my business now that do that. If I'm having a rough day here, it'll bleed into my life elsewhere. And so I think the beautiful synchronicity there or similarity there is that just as in motherhood, if you don't want to spiral out and be the best woman and mother you can be, you need support, and you need to
Yep.
be able to know how to delegate and know what are my areas of strengths, where can I be better, of course, self-evolvement and learning, but also like what can I ask for help in the same way I would in my business.
Yep. There's a doula quote going around right now, in the birth world where it's like, no, the mom does not need you to come over. The new mom does not need you to come over and hold her baby. She needs you to
Yeah.
come over and hold her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I always tell clients I don't hold babies. They always, they're like, Yamel, there's no, I didn't have a picture of you holding the baby, during our birth or our postpartum journey, or when, I do hold them when I go and do
Mm-hmm.
lactation counseling because I have to do like an oral assessment. But I want you to hold your baby. I want to hold you. And that's probably my favorite part of all that we do at One Love is holding new parents because
Beautiful.
they need it. So yeah, we need that support as moms and we need that support as entrepreneurs as well. We need
Yeah.
people to hold
Yeah.
us.
I love that. Um, okay, girly, I want to ask you, you're so inspirational. I look up to you. I think that you have such an energy of groundedness, and it's when I'm talking to you, it's like this is a wise woman. This is someone who
Mm,
has experienced a
thank
lot.
you.
You're welcome, and I'm sure our listeners feel that way too. So I want to ask, even though you've had so much success and accomplishment in your life, we're always still learning. And so, is there anything in your life at this time that you are struggling with a little bit more these days that I could either shine light on or just simply hold space for you?
Oh, thank you for that, Jalissa. I would
Mhm.
say, just like I touched on earlier, it would probably be letting go. Like there's certain, like I'm such a fixer, right? As a doula comes from the term of serving people, serving women specifically. As a nurse, like you're always serving your patients, taking care of your patients. I'm naturally that person. And I have to
Mm,
recognize that there are some things that I just have to let go and I won't have the capacity to fix, and that's okay. Whether that is a friendship situation or a disagreement with my parents because I'm an adult child, but I still have those, right? Um, or a situation with my husband where maybe I just need to let go and I don't have to be right, right? Um, or something with my children, like we touched on before, where I don't
mm.
have to agree as their mom. I really don't have to. They have the right to move in this life how they see fit. So, yeah, I would love for you to hold space for me when it comes to that because I think it'll help a lot of areas in my life.
Yeah. So I thank you for sharing that. And I think that many of us can relate, especially those of us that are kind of like servers to other in a sense of like we've always served others, whether it's in a
Yeah.
line of work or just like who we are as people. We want people to feel comfortable, loved. And if there's a way that we can help, we want to do that. And so what I would say to that is we grow up and there's these different parts of us that kind of evolve over time, and they come for a very specific purpose. Sometimes it's
Right.
learned behavior, and sometimes it's just lived experiences where it's like this thing had to come out of us to help us survive at that time, and or it provides us deep comfort, almost like an attachment to this part of ourselves, the one who helps others, the one who helps fix things, that helps people feel better. Maybe an entanglement of pride within that. And none of this is bad. It's just what it is.
Yeah,
Right.
for
And so for
sure.
you, Yamel, how long has that part of you lived? maybe even before your career, where you felt really good helping others and fixing problems?
Oh my God, forever. I started like my birth work journey when I was 10, that my mom had early labor at home, and I was
Oh,
my baby
wow.
brother was, yeah, my baby brother was crowning, and we lived in Brooklyn, second floor. Paramedics were taking a long time. I say this story because I remember it literally like it was
Wow.
yesterday.
I
And I
just got
remember my
chills.
I like remember wiping her forehead and getting like a washcloth. My father was paralyzed, like frozen, I remember. And I looked down, I like took off her pants, laid her down, wiped
Mm,
blood. My brother was literally crowning, like I can see the head. And you just went through
wow.
the notions until she was carried out by paramedics to head to the hospital. And my mom remembers it very vividly. And I was 10. So I've always, and genuinely love helping people. That is probably, and that's not that great because you yourself, you don't help yourself when you're a
Mm-hmm.
helper. So you kind of have
Yeah.
to talk yourself down. Like, and that's why I say letting go too. There are going to be moments where I can't help everyone, and that is okay.
Hold up. That's a huge, let me just backtrack. That's a huge part of the soulful work that you do today. You helped your mom give birth at
Oh,
10 years
yeah.
old.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
that's
was,
huge. I mean, we just like
yeah.
lightly went over. That's so big for your line of work and what you do, but also in this sense of like this part of self that we're saying that we 10 years old is such a tender age,
Yeah.
where this was a huge moment of your life for you and your mom and your brother. But it already set the tone of here's Yamel, who is selflessly a helper. You fit right in, right? No shame to dad. He wasn't fully grounded, it seemed, and so you had to
Yeah.
step in,
Yeah.
right? And be that. Honestly, it's the same energy that I feel from you now. When just before beginning this portion of like, you have very grounded energy. Like that's what I felt, and I could imagine that's what almost emerged at that 10-year-old self of like, okay, everyone else is kind of freaking out, no one else knows what to do, like let me just step in and naturally help in this moment.
And that totally, you're right. And it's totally what my life has been. Like, as a
Yeah.
nurse, you need to have, they call it like the poker face, because
Yep.
your patient family is going to be in the most vulnerable moment of their life. And you need to be the grounded person. And then in birth
Yeah.
work, it's the same. I can't, we hold space for families, and I cannot go into your space without feeling grounded and recognizing that it's a sacred space. I am a guest invited into that space, and I need to protect that space.
Mm.
So yeah, I would say that it is at the forefront of all that we do in the pregnancy, labor, birth, postpartum space. We have to go into it in a grounded fashion.
Okay, yeah, that makes complete sense. Okay, so from a very, very young age, that was your role that you naturally stepped into. So it only makes sense that as you grew up and you did your line of work and also a mother and partner and friend, that role naturally emerged within you in so many other places of your life. So this time of your life now where it's like you're being, I guess, just more cognizant that it is hard for me to let go, and um it's challenging for me not to want to fix things. To me it makes perfect sense, and I can even give you more compassion, and I hope that you can see that for yourself too, of like, well, of course, this is literally all I know how to do from the very tender age of 10 years old, if not sooner, that we just aren't remembering at this time, right? So it's
You're
like, how
right.
could Yamel be anything different than all she knows how to be? And so I would almost imagine when you can't help somebody, does it feel like a part of you is missing, or not to be so drastic, but almost dying? This part of you that
Yeah.
has been with you for so long, and then when you don't get to do the thing that you do best and normally comes naturally for you, Does it feel off-putting, almost like a grief experience?
Yeah, does feel like a grief experience for sure. When I can't show up or do the thing or say yes to, the ask. I get asked a lot of different things from different people. And that was another thing that a very um good business coach that I had said to me one day was like, when people ask you for something, you need to just pause, Yamel, and say, give me a few days. Because you are saying
Mm,
yes way too fast. But yes is my automatic response because that is
yeah,
what makes me truly happy. But I have to realize not only for the success of my passions, and I love that you made me rephrase that, not only for the
mm,
success of my passion, but me being able to show up in motherhood, in my marriage, right, as my whole
yeah,
self. It
yeah,
is okay to say no sometimes. Um, and I say that for you listening because I'm pretty sure you're probably going through some things right now where you're feeling like that's a bad thing, or you're feeling like, well, Yamel probably or somebody like Jalissa and Yamel have that all figured out. No, we are figuring it out as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what I'll say, that I think the beautiful connection here too is because we're talking about motherhood and business. Um, Within the journey of motherhood, there are so many egoic deaths and rebirths, continuous evolvement of the woman that we have to be for different chapters of our motherhood experience. And for me, this part of you that has been with you for such a long time, the part of you that helps others selflessly, that it's natural, that it's a part of your identity, that your ego is heavily attached to. I feel that this part of your life, like your eldest is 25, you've done so much as a worker, I'm sure as a mother within your line of work before you became a business owner, that this is maybe, it is a grieving part of you if you can honor this time of your life to continue to not say yes to everything and also just feel the sadness, because while it's for something better for you, that this is like a maybe a new chapter of your life and we don't know what it holds for you, but you get to be a little bit more selfish, right?
Yeah.
You get to have a little bit more of your time reserved for you and whatever that looks like for you. And at the same time, we can also honor the grief that comes with that because you're saying goodbye to an old part of self. And last thing I'll say is, because she's been with you for such a long time, she's not going to give up so easily. Rightfully so. That's okay.
Yeah.
And it'll be a reminder for you to hold the duality of emotions of, I'm sad that we're letting this part of me literally die. If I truly want to emerge into this next level version of myself that is waiting to be rebirthed at this time. So every no and every pause is an opportunity for change, for whatever the future brings for me.
I love that. Thank you, Jalissa.
Yeah. Thank you, Yamel. Okay, this was a jam-packed conversation. We had the intentions of it just being business and motherhood, but we went into so much more.
I
I
love
thank
it.
you so much. Yeah, me too. I thank you so much for your wise words. Please let everybody know how they can find you and how they could look at your work and connect with you.
I would love to get to know you all. You can find me on Instagram at Yamel Belen, on TikTok at the Motherhood Kit, and we'll guide you to other places from there. Also, you can listen to the Motherhood Kit wherever you listen to podcasts. I would love to have your feedback and hold hands with you in motherhood as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, and we'll be in contact soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into Mindset Mastery with Julissa Edwards. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast to receive future episodes packed with valuable insights. Remember to follow us on social media at thehealthy.highperformer for more inspiration, tips, and updates. If you found this episode helpful, we'd appreciate it if you could share it with your network and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us as we continue to empower high performers like you. Until next time, keep mastering your mindset and thriving as a healthy high performer.